Hi, my name is Mike Glad, and I am the president of the Engaged Church Network. And we're glad that you have joined us on this podcast and this video blog and all of these other social media things that are part of our life now. Joining me today is my good friend Clay Stauffer. Clay has been pastor of the Woodmont Christian Church for
17
17 years?
17 years.
Well, you came when you were 27, right?
27. That's
All right, so that's where I had the 20. All right. You've been pastoring there through all of the growth of Nashville and all of the changes and all of that kind of thing. The way I got to know you, Clay, was through your article in the Tennessean. That was when I first started recognizing you. Mm-hmm. And then because I saw your name, I saw you in lots of different places. And then began to recognize that in the Nashville community, you are one of those Christian spokesmen that a lot of media and other people go to see if there's a particular slant on a particular issue, which sometimes puts you in the middle of it.
That is correct.
And there are days I was envious of you, and there was days I thank God I didn't do what you had to do that day. But you and I have been friends a long time. I love your love for the local church, your love for your community, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But let's talk about the pastor in the public forum and how you got into it and what you have learned, both good and bad, from that process.
Well, first of all, Mike, congratulations on your retirement and congratulations on your work to support churches and pastors.
Thanks.
I'm glad to be a part of that and for your friendship. So I have I've been in Woodmont 17 years, like you said, and I have always found myself in the middle of a very busy, growing town, and really in the middle of what we call a purple church,
Right.
which means that we don't know exactly what the breakdown is between red and blue,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 60-40, maybe 55-45, but we know that we've got Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives, and our goal is to hold everybody together in the love of Jesus Christ and create a place for them to have civil conversation on issues that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that I've approached that is eyes wide open, understanding the risks that come with that,
Mm-hmm.
and also being very intentional that we are trying to create a community where people can talk and disagree, debate, and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And then when people come to our church, they know they're going to find people that are like them and that agree with them, but they're also going to find people who don't agree with them. Mm-hmm. And we've tried to really intentionally build that type of church where people can have the conversations and address the issues that come up.
Mm-hmm. Because they're having these conversations.
That's right.
They're having them at work. They're having them at home.
That's right.
They're having them over Thanksgiving dinner.
That's right.
But a lot of times they are not informed conversations.
That's right.
So
And the three things that they say you're not supposed to talk about in polite company:
Mm-hmm.
religion, politics, and money.
Mm-hmm.
My first book that I wrote was in 2016 called Preaching Politics, where I addressed all of those things.
Right.
Because what I find is that's what people want to talk about.
Yeah.
But the way that you talk about it is what matters.
Okay.
And the way you set that up is what matters.
Was there a moment that you said, I have to step into this process? Or did it just kind of ease in, all of a sudden you realized, okay, I'm here?
I guess the moment was back when I was in college and I was trying to decide between seminary, law school, and I had a professor who said, tell me the things you want to do with your life. And I said, well, I love to preach, I love to teach, I love to write, I love to counsel. And he said, you can do all those in the church.
Yeah.
And so the way to answer your question is, I believe that Karl Barth was right when he said we got to approach every day with the Bible in one hand and newspaper in the other,
Mm-hmm.
and let's see what the Bible has to say about the issues that are facing our day and age.
Okay. Let's go back to probably one of the worst days of your life. Woodmont Christian Church is right across the street from the Covenant School.
Down the street
just a little bit. And one day your phone rings and you're in the middle of the Covenant shooting. That puts you through walking with the parents and all of that. That puts you in the limelight of issues like gun safety. You held the conference with Senator Frist. And the two of you put together a proposal for us. So tell us about how that germinated and ended up, because this is Tennessee. Everybody here has at least one shotgun, one pistol, maybe more.
Right.
So,
Right. So March 27th, 2023, we're right around the year anniversary.
Right.
Sitting in my office in Green Hills, and all of a sudden police cars start racing by, followed by fire trucks, followed by ambulances, followed by more police cars. And I knew something bad had happened, but I didn't know what. Well, it didn't take long before the news broke that there was an active shooter at the Covenant School, which is just down the street. And so sitting there, and then all of a sudden what you had were police cars, ambulances racing back the other way, ultimately going back to Vanderbilt Hospital. I ended up spending the rest of that day at Woodmont Baptist Church, which is our neighboring church, which was the reunification place for the families and the kids. And
it's where they sent the parents while they tried to locate their
of course, not everybody was reunited with their loved one that day, as we know. There were 3 children who were killed, and there were 3 adults who were killed that day. That was surreal. It was a nightmare. I was trying to help my friend Nathan Parker, pastor at Woodmont Baptist. He had a lot on his plate, so I was trying to help as best I could with the police and all the other things, get these families reunited with their kids. And we also got news during that time that we had lost a 9-year-old girl in our church. That one of the children was Evelyn DeCouse, and she did not make it. So another one of our ministers ended up going to Vanderbilt while I was still at Woodmont Baptist, and we ended up having her funeral was the first one that Friday. So that really put us, right into the middle of what was an awful situation, but a situation that is far too common in our country.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nashville was shocked, hurt, grieving. These kids just went to school, and they didn't come home to their families.
Not only did they go to school, they went to a school to be away from that kind of violence.
That's right.
And that kind. I mean, this was a
this is a private school in the heart of Green Hills, and that's right. And ultimately they ended up not being safe there. And Covenant's an amazing school, and it could have happened at any school. Yeah, it wasn't. It could have happened at any school, but that ended up putting me into a place where I felt called to continue a conversation that I'd already had over many years. But it's the fact that we have the Second Amendment, yes, but with the Second Amendment there comes responsibilities,
right? Yeah.
And the two are not mutually exclusive. You can support the Second Amendment and also say there are some things that we could do that might make this better. And so specifically, the 3 things that Safer Voices Tennessee talks about are background checks and the importance of those and funding those. There's a backlog of those in our state.
Right.
Temporary transfer laws from people that are mentally ill that don't have any business owning firearms. And so in this case, the Covenant shooter, other cases, other people that just are in a mental state where they should not have guns. And then the third thing that we talk about is safe storage. And we really believe that by pushing those specific policies, and there's bipartisan support for this. This is not something that's like on one side.
Right.
We believe that we can make a difference and hopefully limit what has become a major health crisis in our culture,
right,
and that is death by firearms.
And a major impact on children and young adults. Without that. So,
without question.
So you make that stand. That's not a popular stand in Tennessee. So let's talk about the pros and cons of being in the public square as a pastor.
Sure.
So what happens when you get the personal attacks?
Sure.
That where you say, hey, we need to think about this in a common sense way, and you get replies to social media and other ways,
Well, first of all, I confuse people when I tell them that I'm a gun owner.
Yeah.
And I'm a gun owner that believes that those 3 things could make a big difference. Research data has proven it can make a big difference. And so to me, this is not an all or none deal. This is us trying to be safer. But absolutely, when you bring up issues around the Second Amendment, people are very passionate about it. I was very frustrated, honestly, after Sandy Hook and Newtown, that we didn't see some traction on that particular issue because, again, there was bipartisan support. And people, how many times can we watch this happen where we just say we're going to just not do anything and hope that it doesn't happen again, and that happens again? But absolutely, when you take a stand or become part of an organization like Safer Voices, you're going to be attacked. You're going to be targeted. People are going to be frustrated. But you know what? At the same time, if you can do it respectfully and intelligently, people will respect you.
Okay.
They may not agree with you. They may say, I'm with you on this one point, but not so much on this. But they respect you because they know where your heart is. They know that you're trying to make a difference. They know that you officiated a funeral for a 9-year-old that was killed in their school. And so I do find that even if they don't agree with you, they respect you. Okay. And part of my desire is that I just want people to have the conversation. And I don't want anybody to feel like they're being judged or casted out because they feel a certain way. I just want to engage people in the conversation. And yeah, part of what Senator Frist, who was a Republican Senate Majority Leader, has helped me realize, along with Alex Jahanger, he did that event with us at Woodmont, trauma surgeon at Vanderbilt, is that this has become a public health crisis.
Right.
And the data is really overwhelming, and so we can't ignore that. We have to acknowledge that. And so Senator Frist, who's a friend of mine, has helped me see that we have to approach it as a public health crisis and not just as a partisan wedge issue, which is how it so often is viewed.
Okay. So how did you carry that into the pulpit? And what happens in the pulpit when you've taken that kind of public stand?
Well, I think you have to be very careful in the pulpit in terms of when it comes to, especially when it comes to partisan politics, right? As you know, ministers cannot endorse candidates on behalf of their churches. The tax-exempt status of churches prohibits us from doing that. But even when it comes to those issues, I think the way that you approach it in the pulpit is you ask the question, we continue to see these school shootings and mass shootings in our country. What could we do to make this better? And the conversation around the Second Amendment and gun safety is one answer. And somebody else say, and let's also have the conversation around mental illness. And so you facilitate both of those, and you make sure that when you talk about it from the pulpit, you are not telling people this is the only way to view this issue. Right. Even if they understand it's the way you view it, you have to create space for other people to have a different view.
Sanctuary in the best sense of that word.
That's right.
And that here's a safe place to unpack this.
That's right. And part of what I try to do, have done over the years, is I just acknowledge that in the digital age, which will help get this video out, and we use it all the time, social media. In the digital age, that has strengthened polarization because of algorithms, because people tend to get feeds of news that
are pulled for them, and they're
That's right. It is only strengthened polarization, and what we need to do is foster dialogue. And if people in the church that are bound by the love of Christ and their love for each other, if they can't embody that or at least try, then I don't know where you can do it. Right? I really don't.
So a young pastor is at a county seat church somewhere in Middle Tennessee, is thinking about taking this step into the public square. What encouragements and what warnings would you have for it?
Well, the first thing I would say is people don't care what you know until they know that you care. So your first responsibility as a pastor is to love your people and form a relationship with them. So I think that first and foremost, you have to have a pastoral connection before you can ever do things like this. And then the second thing that I would say is you need to tread very carefully, but make sure that you set it up in a way where you let it be known that multiple positions are absolutely known and accepted, and have a welcome space for dialogue. Because that's one thing that we have not done as Christians, is Christians have actually been a part of the problem. Right. On both the right and the left. That we have said, to be a part of our church or our community, you need to believe this, this, and this. And then we're intolerant of people that don't agree on a host of things. So
right. Almost made it a test of the faith.
Yeah, that's right. And what you see, as you know, because you've long-term seasoned pastor is you end up with red churches in rural areas or suburbs, and you end up with much smaller blue churches, and people are picking their churches based on politics, and that's not a good thing.
No.
And so that's the problem that we're facing. The polarization is actually bled over into the pews, and that's not good. So my advice to the rural pastor is first establish a connection, make sure your people know that you love them, and I don't even know if doing it from the pulpit is the best move initially. I think these conversations need to be had in small groups and Sunday school classes where people can look each other in the eye, give feedback, not just from one.
But one of the things that gives social media its permission to be so nasty is it's anonymous. That's right. And that we're not talking like this.
That's right. And people, I think, will type things on a screen that they would never
say in public.
Say it to somebody's face. Right. At least I hope they would. Maybe now they do. But they will type things because it's anonymous, because they can just put it out there, and then it seems like the most outrageous thing that's posted gets feedback. And that's not healthy.
Well, Clay, I want to encourage you in your work and your ministry. I'm glad that in the Nashville community that you're one of the voices for the Christian Church, and I'm always eager to see when I see your name in the byline. This is Clay Stauffer. He's the pastor of Woodmont Christian Church, and you've been part of Coffee with Mike. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.